Actually, I wanted to speak today about Chanukah, about some pretty deep concepts. I think we're going to try to crack open the depth of Chanukah. It says like this. It says by the holiday of the Chag of Chanukah, the Midrash tells us that it was already hinted in the first pasuk of Bereshit. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim et haaretz, v'haaretz et tohu vavohu, beruach Elokim merachef al pnei hamayim, v'choshech al pnei tehom. Right? So the Midrash says that tohu is one galut, bohu is one galut, and choshech is another galut. Choshech is galut Yavan. Choshech, darkness, symbolizes the exile of the Greeks, of the Yavanim. Why choshech? Well, why does that symbolize? Well, what's special in choshech? I'm sure you've heard this question before, but we're going to deal with it in a different light. That's question number one. Question number two, if you notice in Ala Nisim, we are saying the following. That you delivered us, Hashem, from the Tme'im biyad tehorim, from the impure ones to the pure ones, v'reshaim biyad tzadikim, and from the wicked ones to the tzadikim, v'zedim biyad oskei toratecha, and the heretics to the hands of those who delve in your Torah. Now, listen, I'm no great grammarian, but it's basically the same thing. You delivered us from the Tmeim biyad tehorim, Reshaim biyad tzadikim, Vezedim biyad oskei toratecha. Why do we need three different ways to express basically the same thing? Why do we need three different ways to express the same thing? Tmeim biyad tehorim, Reshaim biyad tzadikim, Vezedim biyad oskei toratecha. Basically, it means the same thing. Yeah? So,
must be a different name.
So explains one of the great thinkers, Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen, the following. There are three different powers of evil in the world. Esav, Yishmael, and Amalek. Yeah, which is Haman? And Amalek. Esav, Yishmael, and Amalek.
But Amalek is Esav, isn't it the same?
No, it's different. Esav is compared to a shore.
Shore is a bull?
Yeah, a bull. Yishmael is compared to a chamor.
Donkey.
And Amalek is compared to a kelev, to a dog. It's all three. Come and sit with us, Aaron. I'm saying the following, that there are three negative forces in the world. Choshech, and it's from Choshech. It's you have the klipa of the chamor, which is the chet, the shor, which is the shin, and the chaf, which is the kelev. Those are the three negative forces in the world. Choshech. Yeah? Yishmael is chamor. How do we know that? Because Avram Avinu told his two lads, Shevu po ima chamor, and Yishmael was with him. He was referring to Yishmael. Shevu po ima chamor, stay with the chamor, but he didn't mean it as calling his son a donkey. He was saying chamor from the word of chomriyut. Whenever you want to discuss basic raw materialism, you talk about a chamor, a donkey, you talk about materialism. Because the Yetzer Hara of Yishmael is the Yetzer Hara of ta'ava, of lust. Esav is shor because Esav is shor, which represents anything that has to do with jealousy and murder. with jealousy and murder, which usually goes hand in hand, which with jealousy and murder, which is the shore which gores, that's the klipa, that's the ra of shore, which is Esav. And then you have Kelev. A Kelev is a chutzpah yazki, which he goes and he barks in your face, and that's Amalek. That is chutzpah. That is brazenness. We'll call it gava, arrogance. So that's the three negativities in the world. Explains Rabbi Tzadok. That's what we say in Al Nisim. Tmeim biyad tehorim. The tameh biyad tehorim. That's the klipa of Yishmael. They because Yavan, they encompassed all three. They had the Tmeim B'Yad, the Ta'avot, and all the Ta'avot come from Tum'ah. That has to do with Tum'ah, symbolizes Tum'ah, like Shichvat Zera that comes out that makes a person Tameh. So that comes from Ta'avot. So Tmeim B'Yad Teorim, you delivered us from the hands of the Tmeim B'Yad Teorim. That's Yishmael. Reshaim B'Yad Tzadikim. That's about Kina and Tava, and Tzaddik doesn't have Kina. He knows what Hashem gave him. That's Esav. V'zedim biyados ketoratecha. And the heretics who have a lot of arrogance, heretics are usually the ones, the atheists, they know everything. And we gave them in the hands of ketoratecha, which is the opposite, in order to kill Amalek. So that's that's going on in Al Nisim. Those are the words of Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen. Pretty amazing, right? But let's go a step further. And let's see now. These three Yetzer Haras that there are, which is Ta'ava, Kin'ah, and Ga'ava, and arrogance, is something that we have seen in the past, especially in learning Rav Yitzchak Isaac Chaver. It's something that we have seen in the past. That was something that we have seen in the past, that the Gaon Vilna says all negative attributes, all negative midot come from basically ta'ava or kin'ah. He says it comes from those two schools, ta'ava or kin'ah. Kin'ah goes together with arrogance. He puts it into two, and he says that's the daughters of Lot. He has a whole thing about it, the Gra. Now, the Yevanim wanted to take all these three things, and they wanted to put all that tum'ah. They wanted to hit us with all of that tum'ah. How are they what did the Yevanim do? How are they supposed to hit us with that tum'ah? So in the Megillat Antiochus, which is a Megillah that it's Midrashim that talks about basically the story of Chanukah, it says that Antiochus came to the Jews and he told them like this: I want you to be mevatel three things: Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, and Brit Milah. I want you to be mevatel three things: Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, and Brit Milah.
How calculated, huh?
What?
How calculated?
Yeah. Now, I understand Shabbat, Brit Milah. Well, what do they want from Rosh Chodesh exactly? You don't want us to say Hallel? You don't want us to say Ya'aleh v'Yavo? It'll make the Chazin's job easier, right? For Rosh Chodesh,
give us that new beginning,
right? Like what's in Rosh Chodesh exactly? Yeah, well, what's this thing that they wanted to be mevatel Rosh Chodesh? It just doesn't make sense.
The other two make sense. Rosh Chodesh,
it doesn't make sense. The truth is that they all have a common denominator. You see, in this week's parasha, we learned that when Yosef died, when Yosef was thought to be dead, Yaakov fell into a very deep depression. Now, I understand it was a horrible thing, but for 22 years he couldn't be comforted. What was his main tsar of Yaakov Avinu? Why couldn't he get over it? Why couldn't he realize that was the will of Hashem, that Yosef was taken from him? What happened to this deep depression? The Sfarim say like this: it's not necessarily that, not only that Yaakov felt he lost his son. His mission in the world was to bring 12 tribes that were Shiftei Ka, the Shvatim of Hashem, and these Shvatim of Hashem were supposed to rebuild Judaism. And they were supposed to build, Judaism. They were supposed to be the builders of Judaism. 12 Shvatim united together. This was the dream that Yaakov Avinu had, about that there was 12 rocks, and he put the 12 rocks, which was the 12 Shvatim, And they all came, the rocks came together. What does it symbolize that they came together? So I'm going to tell you that when these rocks become be'achdut, they're going to have the power they're going to have the power of building Klal Yisrael. And that was his mission. Now one of them is gone. Yaakov knew he failed his life mission. He was down in the dumps. He messed up on life. Basically, Yaakov thought that he messed up on life when Yosef was thought to be dead. Because the Shvatim were not basically there just as sons. They were the building blocks for Am Yisrael. What is that? What does that relate to us? Each one of the Chagim is Keneged one of our forefathers. Pesach is Avram Avinu, Shavuot is Yitzchak Avinu, and Sukkot is Yaakov Avinu. The 12 months of the year are the 12 Shvatim. When the 12 Shvatim sinned in the Chet HaEgel, it was given to the Rosh Chodesh was given to the women. Rosh Chodesh was given to the women. Levi didn't sin. Okay, but Levi still had Aaron HaKohen wasn't able to stop it totally. So I guess so. Yeah. So it was given over to the women. That's why the women they don't do Milachan Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh symbolizes one of the main holidays of the Jews. Wait a minute, what does it symbolize? Rosh Chodesh is miyuchad because it shows our chokhmah be'inei hagoyim, that the calendar of the goyim, of the Christians, let's say, which is based on the sun, is very off. They have to add on a year. There's a lot that they have to do everything in order to get it right, and they have to change every once in a while. They have to modify the calendar of the Muslims. Ramadan can happen one time in the winter, one time in the summer. It's totally random. But the perfect calendar that all the goyim recognize, the Ashgachat Hashem, is the calendar of the Jewish people. How there's so much chokhmah be'inei hagoyim, and it's something that Hashem gave to us specifically. The goyim know that. That's the comparison that Rosh Chodesh has to Shabbat and Brit Milah. Because Shabbat also is a brit, od brit bini ubenechem. And also, Brit Milah is Od Brit B'ni U'Benechem. That's why the Yevanim tried to attack things that were specifically geared towards our relationship between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They wanted to take all the Tum'ah in the world and put it on us, that we're just like everyone else. That's what they wanted to do. We're just like everyone else. That's why they translated the Torah, because once they translated the Torah, you're not so special anymore. We have it in Yevanit. It's not deep in everything. It's just regular language. Once you translate something, you limit it. We spoke about this in the past. We've spoken about this.
It's almost like diluted.
Right. That's why we don't put Nikudot in the Sefer Torah, even though it makes Balkor's much harder, because
it was a gift, right?
Right? No, but why don't we put Nikudot? Why don't we put Nikudot? No, I'm saying why don't we put Nikudot? Because you put Nikudot, you limit it to that translation only, and there's much more depth to the letters themselves. There's much more depth. This is a topic in itself. But the fact that throughout the generations, Jews were always moser their nefesh. They were always moser their nefesh in these three things: Brit Milah, Rosh Chodesh, and Shabbat. Let me share with you one story that is unbelievable. Let me share with you one story which is really unbelievable. That Danny, you have to listen to this story. I'm about to say a story. Okay, you're in a rush. You're all over. I thought we were sending you to Florida again, Danny, after that, no? We're going to send you again to Florida. So listen to this story. Listen to this unbelievable story that I actually I read this in Rav Pesach Kron's new book. There was this family.
It was unbelievable, this Pesach.
Yeah.
What a speaker. What a speaker, the guy in the evening.
Yeah.
The Kollel.
Pesach Kron, yeah.
So there was a certain Jew who lived in communist Russia. In the 80s, where really, in the 70s, where they were really very, very strict about not letting any religion whatsoever. You weren't even able to do Brit Milah. You're only loyal to the motherland, the communism. Religion was forbidden. And there was one Jew who said, I'm going to have to give my children Brit Milah. It's God's word against their word. I'm not going to care. He didn't know so much, but he was determined. Now, if you mess with the KGB, it's not a good idea. They know you, they track you down. He was determined. So he had a baby boy. He called them up, calmed down, everything. The relatives of this guy were afraid that if they found out that they Brit Milah, that they would know about it, and they weren't loyal, so they snitched on him. They snitched on this guy, and they turn. The KGB gets them in his office. They say, you better be careful what they do and everything like that. You got to be loyal to the motherland. He says, loyal to the motherland. How about loyal to God? They said, they put a warning sign on him, like a watch sign, like a guy's credit score is bad. They put he was flagged. He was flagged. A couple of years later, he had another child. But this time, he was not going to give in. He had another boy. He called the Moel from another city. The Moel said that it has to be done secret. To make a long story short, these relatives snitched on the guy again.
Oh my goodness. It's a true story?
Yeah.
He got the first time.
He
would live from the first time that they snitched on him.
No, yeah. I don't even know if they found out. So he got pulled into the KGB. KGB wasn't joking this time. They sentenced him to exile in Siberia.
Oh my goodness.
Not long ago. It's for a Brit Milah.
Not long ago.
So listen to this. The wife of this guy had 8 kids. Wife of this guy goes to the KGB offices with her 8 children. And with 8 children, she brings them into the office of the guy. She doesn't, not busy, she storms into the guy's office. And she says, listen, you want to take my husband, you want to put him in Siberia, fine. But I cannot take care of these 8 children by myself. I'm giving them over to you guys. You take care of them. So outside, she goes downstairs and she waits. Meanwhile, these little kids, they're jumping around. They're like pulling the shade. They're like doing all these things. They're going, excuse me, you don't know what they're doing. They don't know what to do. 5 minutes later, the guy comes down. He says, ma'am, we're going to let you go home with your husband. Just better not do that again. Wow. This person eventually moved to Israel, and he became a famous person that would keep on, helping people do Brit Milah. Helping people do Brit Milah. And eventually, he got to a point that he was teaching like these totally non-religious Russian students who they obviously didn't have Brit Milah because they were coming from USSR. So they had to have a list with them. Whoever did, he had a mitzvah list. Whoever really, really, really was special would be able to be on the list to get the Brit Milah. That was a strategy in order so that they get these kids to look forward, that they would also have a proper Brit Milah. So there's one kid who got on the list. He was so proud. He told his mother. His mother went crazy. Brit Milah. Who do you think you are? Under no circumstances. So the kid said, "No, I want it." She said she sent the grandfather of this kid, in other words, her father, to go speak to. His name was Boris, and he was a tough guy. To go to the KGB, to this rabbi. And argue it out. This rabbi was very, very cool. This guy was very, very cool. No problem. Start arguing it out and everything. It didn't faze him. Half hour of the conversation, Boris said, "You know what? I'm going to do Brit Milah also." So he was
Come on.
So the mother didn't know what to do. She calls her husband. The husband goes in. He's all upset now. What did you do? We're not Jewish enough. You think we know everything about being Jewish? You know that. We know everything about being Jewish. Don't tell us what Judaism is. You don't need to Brit Milah to be Jewish. He says, Avraham Avinu doesn't let anybody else do Brit Milah. Another half hour. Father was convinced. So now it was only the mother the problem. So the husband said, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. He bought her a very expensive pearl necklace, and everybody was happy. All three had Brit Milah. It was a big happy, and she got the pearl necklace. Everybody was happy.
Yep.
Unbelievable. But Brit Milah is a special thing between us and the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and they've always tried to destroy that. They've always tried to get to us, but we wouldn't let it. We won't let it. You know, sometimes the Mesirut Nefesh, the self-sacrifice of our forefathers, we don't even know what effect it has on us, why we're standing here today. You know how many other Jews are outside? I was once learning the father, a friend of mine, he's religious, his son is totally nothing. So he asked me to go speak to my son. You know the question he asked me? He asked me the following. He says, who came first? Abraham, Adam, or Jesus? That's how much he knew. That's how much he knew. You know, there's people who are so far removed. I don't know anything. What zichut do we have? Sometimes it's only the Mesirut Nefesh of our forefathers. Let me tell you a story over here that happened in Toronto. There's a famous women speaker. Her name is Lori Palatnik.
Lori Palatnik?
Palatnik. She's an Aisha Korah.
Hey, I know.
She sold her house or something, you know?
No, I used to clean the carpet, but then they moved to Israel.
I think they're Washington, D.C.
Canadian?
In Washington, D.C.
It used to be a Torah by
Eglinton, right.
And then she moved. They moved.
I don't know if Israel. I think
She
it's
used to be the rabbi of Israel.
Yeah.
I know that very well.
So she became religious. She was totally from a secular family.
Really? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Washington? Yeah, from the States?
No, now she lives in Washington. Now, and she became Malad Tshuva, but none of her family was religious. But she met somebody, and he said, hey, wait a second, what was your maiden name? So she said, Scare or some maiden name. So he said, wait a second, there's somebody who lives in Thornhill that I think has the same last name, family with the same last name. She said, nah, it can't be. We don't have none of my relatives. They met in some restaurant in Toronto, and it turns out that they have the same last name. So, turns out that they have the same last name. So they found out that they have the same great grandmother.
Wow.
So he said, wait, let me tell you a story about your great grandmother. She said, yeah. Because they were in a small town in Europe, and over there they had no money or anything, and there was no real educational system in the small villages. Whoever had money to pay for a Melamed was able to teach their son Torah. If not, the son grew up as an ignoramus. So it was. So there was the Melamed. He was teaching her son, or his great grandmother. Turns out they no more money. Melamed started packing up his bags and leaving. He says, "What can I do? I have a family to support. What do you want?" So, as the wagon is leaving, the grandmother, she lies down in front of the horses. She says, "It's better that the horses trample on me and kill me than I see that my children are not able to learn Torah." Wow, the whole city comes around. What's going on? Is that? They say it can't be. So they say, they would help raise the funds. And then the Melamed also was very touched. He came down and he was able to stay. So she was amazed at this story. She calls up her father. She said, "Dad, why don't you ever tell me the story about my great grandmother?" He says, "Well, I don't know. I don't think it was important. I knew about it. I think it was important. Some Torah. Is that he's not religious. What does he think is important?" She says, "All right. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Maybe that you missed an important story?" She says, "No. By the way, that's who you're named after. Your name."
Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's an amazing thing because, she's a person who, works very hard towards Torah, very persevering and everything. She obviously got that trait from this great grandmother. She never knew it. Yeah. You never know. You never know with the schut of great grandparents, when grandparents, their tehillim, what they're doing, what ends up that they protect all of us.
Wow.
I was thinking about it recently that I have, as some of you may know, some of you might not know. I have my craze is delving into a lot of the Moroccan minhagim, the Moroccan books. Yeah, I speak about that a lot. A lot of the chachamim, because a lot of their Torah is getting lost. It happens to be that I learn a lot specifically from halachic and dayanim responsa that they deal with. And a lot of these chachamim that I see, there's a couple in particular from the city of Fez, which is where my parents are from. That there's somebody called Rabbi Aaron Bodbo, and his brother-in-law was Rabbi Chaim David Serero. Well, it turns out that both of those are my great-great uncles. Not directly, one of them more directly than others. It turns out, one of them is directly, and Rav Chaim Serero is his brother-in-law. And it's like sometimes I feel that they're looking out for me. It's like you never know, what's why shouldn't I have been, somewhere being what's the 4 jobs for a Jew besides doctor, lawyer, accountant? Should we put in real estate also? The doctor is part of the doctor thing. I don't know where I would have been, but Hashem had mercy on me. Why? Maybe it's because of this chutabo. My grandmother was at your side soon. My grandmother has been for 20 years already, almost 20 years. Esther Bat Hana, which is the Shiur Shabi, the Nishama. But you never see, you never know where the Mesirut Nefesh, where it plays inside. But one thing that we do see, and this is one thing that a reoccurring theme in Chanukah, is that when there is proper Mesirut Nefesh, when there is proper self-sacrifice, then there's no limit to what could be accomplished. Do we have time for one more story? Let's say one more story. I'm telling you the Mesirut Nefesh of one girl, and she's not, she wasn't particularly a religious girl then, but she had a very strong Jewish identity. She grew up in New York in an affluent suburb. She was one of those girls that thought that anti-Semitism is a thing of the past. It's not cool anymore, anti-Semitism, it's outdated. She was actually in a skiing lodge in Canada. Her parents brought her up to a skiing lodge and there was going to be racing and all these type of things for a competition. And she had a lot of friends. She's the only Jewish person. There's a lot of friends, and they were making a Christmas party because Chanukah and Christmas coincided at that time, and it was during that time they were making a party, and she really wanted to go. So she asked her father. Her father didn't want her so much. She said, "Okay, fine, it's just a party. Go." They weren't so religious. Yeah. So she goes to the party, and she's sitting. There's a guy from Switzerland, and he's like the type of guy that you could tell that before he started walking, he was skiing, and he was like the best skier there by far. So he goes in the crowd. He says, "Hey guys, you heard this good joke? There was a Jew who walked in." She gets up. She says, "I'm Jewish." And the whole room is quiet and there's tension in the room. And he says, "Oh, you don't look Jewish." She says, "Well, what's that supposed to mean?" There was tension in the room, you could tell and everything, but whatever, they continued. And the next day on the slopes, everybody was racing, and somehow she raced like she never raced before. She was able to reach the finals. Wow. Who was she in the finals against? This Eitan guy. What's his name? Eitan. I don't know. I guess his name also. And there was no chance she could beat him. He was 10 times better than anyone else. But the miracle of Chanukah happened, and he fell. He fell the first time in the whole race. He fell. He was okay, but the first time in the whole race, he fell, and she won. So
did you hear the joke with that Jew?
Then he turns back and he tries to, I hope you don't think I was just joking. She turned her back to him. She didn't answer. It's sometimes, a person stands up for what they believe in. Hashem says, "You know what? I'll take care of you also. Is that Hashem? We should have this Chanukah should light up our Chagim, and B'ezrat Hashem we should have a good year." Yeah, it's unbelievable. Huh?